The day will come, if you keep at it, that you will be forced to read a contract or negotiate a contract with somebody about your music. And there are some lessons that I have learned that I would love to share with you. Red flags, moral of the story kind of stuff. Little background. We had released our album Chilladisiac Lounge, I believe in 2007. And we had a guy that had his own record label who wanted to license our album and repackage and release it under his label. So it was just basically taking our masters, changing up a little bit of the song order, maybe adding, I think we might have added one new track to it. And then he put different artwork on it. And he was supposedly supposed to be able to get a greater distribution network. Now, we had done pretty well. This is back when people were actually buying physical CDs. We had done pretty well with the boutique marketplace. Like, we had gotten our CDs into upscale stores like Bergdorf Goodman in New York City and really expensive clothing stores that we could not afford to shop in that sold CDs and hotel compilations. And we had done pretty well for ourselves, and that was what got him interested in us. We had also had a song that had reached #1 on the XM Chill station for like 2 months straight. So on our own, we had managed to do pretty well with our first album. And this man wanted to kind of expand the distribution of it. When we first started to talk to him about the contracts, my first question was, are you expecting us to pull our album from distribution? And lesson #1, the guy talked for a really long time. And I never heard him give me a definitive answer, but I know that he definitely didn't say, yes, you will need to take your album down, because I'd worked really hard to get it up in all of these places and I didn't want to undo all of my work. So he never said yes, but he didn't say no either. He just talked a lot without really answering my question. And that was when I learned that you don't pretend you understand just because you're intimidated and you don't want to seem stupid or unprofessional. Some people, that's just their BS way of not answering a question. And you need to drill down and say, I'm sorry, but I'm not sure you answered my question. Don't be afraid to say that. So then the next red flag, if I was more seasoned, should have been that this guy was the victim of the previous business partner. He was the victim, and he was telling us his whole sob story about how, oh, I got cancer and then I got fired and blah, blah, blah. And everyone had turned against him and he was the victim. And I just took it at face value and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. That sounds awful. But I've learned since then that, anytime somebody lives in a victim narrative, that's kind of a character issue and you might want to steer clear. So I was not wise enough yet. So I wasn't solid enough in myself to pursue an actual answer to my questions. I wasn't picking up on the victim narrative. And then the third moral of the story is that we signed with this guy because nobody else was actively pursuing us. And we just were feeling like we were struggling. Yes, I just said that we were doing pretty well, but, in terms of how much we had spent to actually produce the whole project, and then, oh my gosh, the packaging on the CDs it was like $10 on the first run. Our cost was $10 per CD because we had done 8 out of the 13 songs were covers, so we were having to pay all these mechanical royalties up front. And then the artwork that we'd hired out, and it was kind of expensive. So we were just desperate to try to recoup what we had spent. So nobody else was pursuing us. So we signed with this guy. We even paid $1,200 in the lawyer's fees to have a lawyer look at the contract. And then we signed the contract. And then what happened was the guy got mad that his repackaging was on iTunes right next to our original release, and he wanted me to pull the release. And I went to my lawyer. I was like, I already asked him about that. And the lawyer just basically said, my client does not wish to revisit that topic that was already discussed. But the other thing is, and this is what I would say you should begin every contract conversation with, is how do I get out of this contract? How do I get out of it? And we basically just had to ride it out. It wasn't going to be worth the lawyer's fees fighting this guy to try to wrap this thing up faster. He even made a mistake in the mastering, and like the intro of one song got printed on the outro of another one, and it was just a big mess. And in the end, the guy just never followed through with all of the things that were in the contract, like material changes to the contract that he was making. He never gave us statements showing the accounting, showing the sales. He never provided us with any account of the radio stations he said he would be submitting it to. He never provided us with any documentation, and he never paid us a penny because he wasn't going to pay us anything until he had recouped his cost, but he wasn't giving us any accounting statements to show us. So the whole thing was super sketchy, and I have no idea how much revenue we lost because there was this other identical album out there taking sales. It was a newer release, and it was back on iTunes, back when people actually bought downloads for 60 cents a song instead of streaming for 0.00005 cents per stream. So if somebody decided to buy his album instead of ours, that was definitely money that we didn't get. So yeah, we paid $1,200 in lawyer's fees. Lord only knows how many sales we lost. He never provided any transparency or accountability to us. And in the end, he ended up shipping us the remaining quantity once the time of the contract ran out. I think it was 3 years. So now we've just got boxes of these crap CDs that have a mistake on them and nothing to do with them. I mean, so if you want a set of coasters, you could just take 6 of these things and make coasters out of them. Christmas tree ornaments, solar reflectors. What do you do at this point with CDs? Anyway, that's my story. Hope you learned something from it.